Ocotober.
Through positive, inspiring actions and stories,
we bring you exciting activities and conversations that develop us as a people and as a nation.
we take a look at the trending issues in Ghana and the rest of the world.
And we also review the impacting stories from our local newspapers.
Every morning, we bring you stories of hope, change, and renewal.
We empower you through the Word of God and provoke you to live the purposeful life destined for you.
Join us, Anita Kwako,
And the Reverend Ajika Vincent Agbamanya, Monday to Friday from 5:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. as we take you on an inspiring journey, live and exclusively on WTV.
You may also join us on Facebook at WTV Ghana and on YouTube at Wesleyan TV Ghana.
Sorry, not shrink.
Wake up to a purposeful day.
Sorry, not shrink is brought to you by
Danwell Insurance, Multi-Credit Savings and Loan,
and the Methodist University Ghana.
Welcome back. Let us do W Briefs. On W Briefs, if you are joining us for the first time, this segment takes a look at the topic for discussion for the day. We give you an executive summary of the issue that we are looking at. So we live in a data-driven society. Every decision making must be supported or informed by empirical data or evidence. The central agency that deals with producing and disseminating national data is the Ghana Statistical Service. The Ghana Statistical Service has released the second quarter of the year 2024's trade statistics. This afternoon on The State, we are going to unmask the realities behind the figures. I'll take a quick break, and when I'm back, we'll look at this data. Thank you very much, and be with me. Welcome back from the break. This afternoon on The State, we are looking at trade statistics. I mentioned in the intro that the society, in our decision making, everything is driven by data. And the service mandated for collecting data, analyzing and disseminating for decision making, research and development is the Ghana Statistical Service. We're going to delve into the data that has been released for the second quarter of 2024. We'll look at some of the import and export, some of the commodities. So it promises to be a very interesting conversation this afternoon. The show is brought to us by Christian Service University, an evangelical and liberal arts institution established 50 years ago to train men and women with ethical values for transformational leadership in Africa. Admissions for the 2024-2025 academic year is in progress for undergraduate and postgraduate programs. CSU offers dynamic academic and industry-driven programs in nursing, midwifery, business administration, communication, planning, and computer science. For more information, please contact our admission relations officers on 0246275375, 0240154825, 0244 596603 or visit our website on www.csuc.edu.gh. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa. CSU, the University of Choice. So we are joined in the studio by, I can confidently say, an authority on trade statistics so far as this afternoon's conversation is concerned. So he is the head of trade statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service, Dominic Odum. Sir, welcome to the state.
Thank you, Gabriel, for having me.
And we are so glad that you could come and then demystify the figures.
Yeah.
Yes. So for stats and your preliminary comments, what is the report about? If you can just tell us.
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. So, Ghana Statistical Service, as you rightly indicated, as part of our mandate to produce official statistics to guide policy and decision-making, has started releasing a lot of publications on international mechanized trade. So, as part of the series, on the 26th of September, we released the data for the second quarter of 2024, that is from April to June 2024. So with regards to how much Ghana exported and then how much Ghana imported. And we didn't just end there, but what are the commodities that we are exporting, what are the commodities we are importing, who are our trading partners, where are we sourcing this product from, and then where are we taking our commodities that we are exporting to, which continents are we trading with, and then we delve into a quarterly focus where we look specifically at our trade with China over the period, and then again we look at some price changes in international trade.
Great. So we mentioned commodities. I wanted to, so before we look at the report, you're going to give us a summary of the report, so that for the benefit of those who couldn't follow the announcement or the publication by Professor Enim when he did that. You mentioned the 26th September. Give us a summary of the report.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, if you look at the second quarter of 2024, that is comparing the second quarter of 2024 to the second quarter of 2023, Ghana recorded a trade surplus of 5.4 billion. And then in all, Ghana's total trade, that is if you add import and export together, we traded to the tune of 123 billion. And so putting this into import and export perspective, for exports, our total export for the second quarter of 2024, which is April to June, amounted to 64.2 billion. And then our imports amounted to 58.8 billion. So this leads us to a trade surplus of 5.4 billion. Simply put, it means that what you exported exceeds what you imported by 5.4 billion.
What we exported means that our commodities that we sent outside.
Yes.
It exceeded the one we imported. So it means our business people did well by sending their commodities out there, or should I say our reserves, our resources went out there. When we say we made surplus, should we be happy? What does it mean to the ordinary Ghanaian?
And so that is one thing that Ghana Statistical Service had tried to do in this report. Let's not just dwell on the aggregates, but go into details.
Sure.
And then find out which are the commodities that are driving this 5.4 billion surplus. And then where did we take them to? And then look at other commodities that we have capacity or potential to export as well.
Great. So let's look at the commodities. If we can, I think they are the classification of the commodities.
Yes. So if you look at the commodities that is driving this 5.4 billion cedis surplus that we have. Over the period, there has been three major commodities that is driving Ghana's export, which is gold, crude, and then cocoa. Okay. So for the second quarter of 2024, these three commodities, gold, crude, and cocoa, in terms of their share to total export, these three commodities constitute 83.7% of our total exports. just these three commodities, and then all the other commodities will sum it up to 100. So that should tell you that yes, we have made a surplus, but in terms of what is driving the surplus is these three commodities. And in terms of share, for the total exports that we had in the second quarter of 2024, only gold constitutes 57.6% of the total export of the 64.2 billion I spoke about. That's more than half of that value is coming from the proceeds from gold.
Great. So this for exports.
Yeah, for exports.
How about imports?
So when we look at imports, in terms of import, it's a bit more diversified than export. So if you look at the commodities that we import, we mainly import mineral fuels, which is refined petroleum, and then we also import some machinery and electrical equipment, chemical products, vehicles and automotive parts, iron and steel, plastics, and then other products, vegetable products, in which rice is included.
So I know when we talk about import and export, the typical Ghanaian mind is the goods that we bring. We mentioned rice there we import, and then the automotive thing that you mentioned. It means we're bringing more cars.
Yeah. So what we have done in this report is try to come up with some classifications where you group commodities of the same like together. So in that component where we have the vehicle and automotive parts, so anything vehicle and then parts that we use for replacement for these vehicles are all put together in that category. Yeah.
You mentioned cocoa. So you said cocoa, crude, and then gold. These are the three major things that we the cocoa. Is it the beans or other cocoa products? Definitely. What are product parts, and what are those products that are also gaining us the exchanges or the rates that we are getting?
Yeah, so for cocoa, it's mainly the cocoa beans, and then we do some export of cocoa paste as well, and then some other byproducts, but mainly is the cocoa beans.
Is the cocoa beans.
Yeah.
The report suggested that there was with the cocoa beans there was a decline. I think it's 4.0 billion, representing 26.9%, and this has been consecutive. What is accounting for the decline in the slowdown of exports of the value of cocoa beans?
Yeah, so like you have rightly said, from the report you can see that if you are looking at it on a quarterly basis, for the fifth consecutive time we are recording a decline. That is year on year. So if you compare a particular quarter of interest to the previous year, you realize that our export declined from that previous year. So on a 5 consecutive base, so let's take it from the second quarter of 2023, we recorded a decline of 16.5, that is year on year. That is if we were comparing the second quarter of 2023 to the second quarter of 2022, there was a decline of 16.5%. And then in the third quarter of 2023, comparing that to the third quarter of 2022, we saw a decline of 7.6%.
Yeah.
And then in the other quarter, 15.1, and then 24.7. And in this quarter of interest we are discussing, we saw a decline of 26.9%.
And so viewers, if you are just joining us on the state, you are on the state. You've not been anywhere. This afternoon we are looking at the trade statistics that has been released by the Ghana Statistical Service for the second quarter of 2024. And statistics are very key and relevant to decision making, to development, and even conducting research. So that before we take these decisions, they should be supported by empirical data. And a statistical service is the national body or service that churns out or produces and disseminates authoritative data. Before we could use any data, it has to be from them. So we are looking at we are trying to unmask the realities. So we've looked at he's mentioned the commodities that we export, mostly and mainly gold, crude, and then cocoa. So these are the things that then we have mentioned also some of the commodities that we import. You know, so we are trying to get the realities on the ground. So and helping us in the discussion is the head of trade statistics at the Statistical Service, and there's Dominic Odum. Can we look at the Dominic, if we may, let's look at the shares by continent.
Okay, yeah. So let's look at it from the continent perspective, like you have said. So with regards to exports, two major continents has been our major export destinations. So over the period, Europe and Asia and then Africa are the three major export destinations for Ghana. So for the second quarter of 2022, if we look at it in terms of share, 31.9% of our exports went to Europe as a continent. And then to Asia, 42.0% of our total exports went to Asia, and then 20.2% to Africa as a continent. We do export some little to North Africa, but compared to these other three, that's insignificant.
So we've seen Asia, Europe, and then Africa. Asia, my guess is China.
Certainly.
So most of our this thing goes to China. And then in Europe, which country are we looking at?
So in Europe, our major trading partners is the UK. We have UK. So the UK, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Russia. So those are the main trading partners when it comes to Europe. But then if you are looking at our trade from the continent perspective, you realize that over the period, Asia as a trading partner in terms of continent is overtaking our trade with Europe. We used to trade with Europe more than any other continent. But if you look at the data right from the fourth quarter of 2023, you realize that Asia is taking over as the major trading partner when you are looking at things from the continental perspective.
I'm interested in Africa. Is it South Africa?
Yes, South Africa. So
that's a powerhouse.
Yes. So South Africa, and it's mainly the export of gold. To South Africa. Yeah, that is.
And how about the import? If that's export, the import by continent?
Yeah, so for import by continent, like I said, so our major is now again Asia, and then followed by Asia, followed by Europe, and then Africa. So it's the same trend for continents. For export, it's Asia, Europe, Africa, and then same for import. Europe, Asia, Africa.
And the report has it that China has taken a leading dominance for some time now. I think since 2021.
So if you look at the origin of imports, products, like I said, we have categorized our total imports into 10 categories, where we have the mineral fuels, we have machinery and equipment, we have chemical products. So
as displayed on the screen, that is what Dominic is explaining, so that we appreciate the data.
Yes. So if you look at this origin of import, for these 10 major classifications, 5 out of the 10, we are sourcing them from China. So if you look at it, let's look at mineral fuels. It's not China which is leading, but if you look at other products, China's share is 20.1%. So, and then if you look at machinery and electrical equipment, China is the main source, which is 41.5%. If you look at chemical products, it's China 29.7%. If you look at iron and steel, China, which is 70.5%. So 5 out of the 10 major classification groups, the main origin or source of import is from China.
You are a researcher. You guys go beyond the numbers there. What is giving China the energy to surpass and overtake the others? What is making the Ghanaian consumer have a liking for goods from China?
Yeah, so economically, every trader would be a rational person. So you would want to source your goods from where you can get it cheaper, one, and then also the ease of doing trade. How complex it is to import or export from a particular country. So there are a lot of, or some parameters that traders will look at to decide that I would want to source my product from this particular country or the other country.
There's the perception, I think that it's real though, that they have different markets and the goods they produce is market specific. So the Chinese goods that we import that come to Ghana, there's the African specs or specifics that they make. If you are sending to America, they have, and the qualities vary. In your research, have you been able to confirm market specific production that the business people do or the trade goes through?
Yeah, so for the data, let me say that the main source of data for this publication is from customs, which is, we source this data from the ICAMS, which is the Integrated Customs Management System. So that is where we source the data from. So for the data that we are sourcing from, in terms of the branding and specifications and all that, that is not really featured in the, because once I am an importer, all I do is I declare to customs that I want to import, let's say, 10 laptops of a particular brand. It could be Dell, HP, and then the declaration is open, the valuation is done, and you pay the necessary duties, and then it lands on the market. So the issue of standards and all that, that is probably another thing that as a country we can look at to ensure that whatever traders are bringing in meets certain required standards.
Yeah, I think we need to look at, can we look at gold? I'm very much interested in gold that we export. Switzerland used to be major until recently. I think United Arab Emirates has overtaken.
Yes. So for the export of gold, Switzerland has, like you rightly said, has been the major taker of our gold. But for the second quarter of 2024, we see the United Arab Emirates taking that lead by getting almost 40% of as a share of our total export, and then Switzerland taking about 35.6%. But like we said, Switzerland has always been the major taker, closely followed by the United Arab Emirates. But for the second quarter, we see that turnaround where UAE was the major taker of our gold.
Let's look at the commodities again with China. You realize that electricals, we seem to be importing much from that part of the world. I'm trying to ask why that dominance and that space with electricals so far as our consumption is concerned.
Yeah, so I think that is one aim of this report, and that is what Ghana Statistical Service is trying to do of late, to make sure that we don't just churn out aggregates, but we give details for policymakers to lay hands on this, and then now we can use numbers and statistics to really go deeper into why things are the way they are. So there's a lot of detail, and upon request, we can even give much detail than we have published in the report.
Plastics.
Yes, plastics.
We always complain about plastics. Yeah. And you've not given them data on how much we are importing and the harm it's doing to us.
Yeah, so clearly from this report, it shows that, yes, we are still doing some quite sizable amount of import when it comes to plastic, and like you can see in the report, mainly from China. So now there is data for policymakers to know how much is it we are bringing in in terms of the standards. Are they meeting the standards? And then now we can have some statistics and data to be able to measure the environmental impact based on how much we are bringing into the country.
Exactly. So these values that we have mentioned, or the data, are they nominal or real values?
Yeah, so these are the nominal values, and let me take this opportunity to try and explain what we mean by nominal and then real. So when we say nominal, you know, we don't trade in Ghana cedis when we are trading internationally. So we trade in the USD. So usually
United States dollars.
Yes, the United States dollars. So when we say nominal, then this is the face value of it. Whatever numbers we have been dealing with so far is based on the value of the Ghana cedis. So then one would want to, at a point in time, measure real growth. And you need to take out the price effect. Because let me try to simplify this. So for example, if I produced 1 bar of gold in 2023 and the price of 1 bar of gold was, let's say 100, and then in 2024 I produce a half bar, but the price of the half bar is now 120. Now, in terms of value, I have earned more than I earned last year, because last year for the 1 bar I earned 100.
Yes.
And then this year I did half, but yet I have earned 120 because prices of gold bars have gone up on the international market. So you would want to know whether the change that you are seeing from 100 to 120 is real or is just as a result of price increase.
Okay.
So clearly you can see from this scenario that even though you have seen a change of 20 from last year, because you had 100 and now you have 120, but that change is not as a result of you producing more, but it's as a result of price going up on the international market. And for that matter, you might think you are doing well, but in real terms, you have actually not done well, because you produce half of what you produced the previous year.
So more or less has to do, so you balance it between the two. Is it as a result of production
or price changes?
So that is what we mean by nominal and then the real. Real.
So usually for the nominal, yes, once you are doing your normal targeting, because that is the money that you are roping in. So then now you can base all your planning and decisions on the face value of it. But if you want to measure yourself in terms of production as to whether you are actually producing more, then you take out the price effect, and then you know your true level of production, and that helps you to plan better.
So these values or data that you give to us is for planning purposes too.
Yes.
So that you know, are there any other areas that you would like to simplify?
Yeah, so like you have said, in terms of the real and the nominal, one thing that Ghana Statistical Service has done is also not just to give the nominal values, but also compute a price index, which we use to deflate or take out the price effect, so that we know our true levels when it comes to our international trade. So for example, if we are looking at 2024 quarter 2, nominally, that is how much we got as a country in terms of trade. If you put our import and export together, it's around 123 billion, like I earlier on indicated. Now, if you take out the price changes and the price effect, our real trade is around 47.1 billion. So you realize that the price effects, that is the prices of gold going up on the international market, crude, and then cocoa, has a lot of impact on how much you are getting. But then the question is, in terms of the production, the numbers, the quantities, are you producing more, and as a result you are roping in more foreign exchange earnings, or is just as a result of price increases on the international market? So this is what the report has done to give policymakers much insight so that we can plan appropriately.
I am interested. I like the Switzerland bid because of the gold that goes there and what they make of how they're able to trade gold on that international market. And I ask myself, Ghana here, in Ghana, what could be contributing to our, we send our refinery, we send all of it to them. They have banks that store gold, and then what maybe your eyes have not gone that area, but for the sake of getting the understanding of that and appreciating the issues of import and export, why is it that we can, or what is incapacitating us?
Yeah, so I think that as a country, you first asked one question: should we be happy that we have recorded a trade surplus, or it's rather should put us on our toes to start thinking around the box? So yes, as a country, like I indicated, if you look at the data, consistently these three commodities has been our major foreign exchange earners. So what Ghana Statistical Service is doing now is we are opening up the conversation by giving more granular data. Let's not just rejoice because we have seen a surplus. Three commodities is constituting 83.7% of your total export. So the conversation we need to begin having is, it means that for all our planning and everything we do is mostly based on the foreign exchange earnings we are getting from these three major commodities. Now, is there the need to start looking at other sectors of the economy?
Exactly.
Whether we have potential to really take comparative advantage or absolute advantage over certain commodities that we have the potential to be able to produce. So this is the conversation, or these are the conversations Ghana Statistical Service is hoping that policymakers would now come around the table, use the data, and then begin to explore which parts of the economy we have potential, but probably we have become a bit comfortable with the major commodities, so we are not looking elsewhere.
So I like that. I like conversations, especially when they are backed by data and then facts, just like you have mentioned. So there could be other sectors that we are more or less not exploring. You are saying that policymakers, if they will use the data, Statistical Service has been around for a long time, and I think last week your outfit did a report on GDP. And then you come in price index. We have all of them. Now we are very used to you. When you come, you know you're having to give us data on a particular area. Yes. Sometimes we come inflation rate and all that. You've been around for some time. You've given us national data. Do policy users, the policymakers, do they use the data?
So what Ghana Statistical Service has done recently is also to set up this National Statistical Advisory Committee, we call it the NSAC. And this is made up of representatives from all the ministries, departments, and agencies. And these representatives are from the statistics and research units of these ministries, departments, and agencies. The motive behind this is to help the ministries, departments, and agencies, especially their research units, to help them build capacity so that they can be able to analyze data or produce statistics that their leads can fall on when they want to make any policy or decision or any intervention. So these are the initiatives that Ghana Statistical Service is taking. Currently, as I speak to you now, there is an activity ongoing in all parts of the country where we are training the district statisticians on the use of administrative data. So yes, as a result of institutions or ministries, departments going about their routine jobs, they create some form of statistics.
Yeah.
But then the capacity to be able to bring this data together and make meaning out of it sometimes is what is lacking.
Yeah.
So as part of our mandate, one initiative is we are going around making sure we build capacity so that these district statisticians or the statisticians within the MMDAs have the capacity to be able to harness this data and then make statistics out of it to guide their policies and then decisions.
So it's like you mentioned, it's an intervention or initiative that we've introduced to monitor, more or less, monitor that this data that are produced are used.
Exactly.
And then for decision making. And I think the result is that we're going to have development.
Absolutely.
When we use that.
Absolutely.
Then great. It's getting interesting. Viewers, you are still on the state, and we've been looking at trade statistics as released by the Ghana Statistical Service for the second quarter. That is April, May, June of 2024. And the head of trade statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service, Dominic Odum, has been with us explaining and the figures. We are trying to unmask the realities behind the figures. We'll take a quick break, and I'll be back, and we're going to look at some of these sectors that can be brought up so that we make sure that we make some import and export earnings from there. Please stay with me.
The Christian Service University, a fully chartered private university in Ghana, is inviting applications for admission. Undergraduate programs include BSc Nursing and Midwifery, Computer Science, Information Technology, Bachelor of Business Administration, BA Communication Studies, Planning and Social Development, and Theology with Administration. Postgraduate programs include MSc in Accounting and Finance, Monitoring and Evaluation, Corporate Planning and Governance. We have MA MPhil Communication Studies, MA Christian Ministry with Management, Event Management, MPhil English and Mathematics Education. With quality, faculty and state-of-the-art facilities, we blend academic work with entrepreneurial mindset in all our programs. For more information, please call 0246 275375, 0240 154825, or 0244 596603, or visit our website www.csuc.edu.gh. CSU is located at Odenaho Kwadaso on the Kumasi Obuasi Road, 100 meters off Star Junction. Choose CSU today to secure the future of Africa.
And to make him better known. Don't come here, don't come here. Ghana for Methodist Asafuma. WTV Enyamfienu 5 years. Hooray! Na enam emfienu mafidida. WTV ADNT. Or yet don't come me promo. And it says, Sawa ya Ghana ni na wo business. Ana adwuma ko bia wo pese obo ho dawura. WTV say, ye ba betwa adwuma ko no anaso wadwa tonde no. Ya bo ho dawuro na wotwe mienu 2 weeks at the amount. 1,000 Ghana cedis per awubetua. We eye kwan a WTV efa so e dia da wase say. What time the chi ama drum pempenswa ene wadri. Sa promo ye di no so me kakra e da ye dimu. Ya no nti mu amu nwuma ku a mo pese mo bo ho dawuro no. Muntutu mrika na momrai. Fred WTV na ni penfo ni nkomo emfa don komi promo yi ho 0593 110733 and our WhatsApp 0256 253461. WTV, reaching out to the world.
Welcome back, viewers. from the break. We are still on the state, and this afternoon we are looking at the trade statistics that has been released by the Statistical Service of Ghana for the second quarter of 2024. And the head of trade statistics at the Statistical Service, Dominic Odum, is here with us in the studio, and he's been helping us to demystify the figures. He's been helping us to get the realities, or the real, should I say, growth, or what the numbers are telling us. And I am convinced you've been enjoying the conversations as we are saying that some of our commodities, the three major commodities, gold, cocoa, and crude that we export, we've made surplus. But in real terms, what does it mean? And we're looking at, before we went on the break, looking at, could there be other commodities that we are not looking at? Why as a country must we depend? These are the three major ones. In future, what if this on the international market they don't trade in this? So what do we do? Do we have what it takes to survive? Are we looking at development? Is it possible? If we put all our eggs in one basket, are there hanging fruits, low-hanging fruits that we can fall on? So I will get back to Dominic, and we'll look at possible commodities that we can fall on. The situation is not looking that good if we are depending on these three major commodities. Are there other areas and sectors we can look at?
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. So, like you have rightly said, as a country, as the saying goes, you can manage very well what you measure, and you can only measure using data and statistics. So Ghana Statistical Service has started filling in the gap of data unavailability at a very granular level. So yes, we have recorded a surplus in the second quarter of 2024, like we are discussing. But then we need to go deeper into the numbers and then ask ourselves, which are the commodities that are driving this surplus? Are there any other sectors of the economy that we have capacity, potential, but we are not yet exploring? So that is what this report seeks to do. In the area of agriculture, are there any agricultural commodities that, apart from cocoa, that we have capacity to produce on a large scale, be self-sufficient and export? In terms of industry, are there any sectors within industry that we have capacity in terms of raw material, in terms of infrastructure and everything? So we need to begin to have conversations around the possible markets that exist, and then the possible areas of the economies where we have capacity to take advantage of as a country. The issue here is about diversification. If only three commodities are contributing over 80% to your total foreign exchange earnings, then if there's any shock on the international market, be it in the trade of gold, crude, or cocoa, then what next? So these are the questions that we need to begin to ask ourselves, and we expect that policymakers from all sectors of the economy come around the table and we begin to have a conversation to become more diversified in terms of what is bringing us foreign exchange earnings.
And it's great. Maybe this report it just looked at maybe did a trend analysis, followed a particular pattern, and give us the data. So now let's look generally as part of your research. Maybe you have done it in the past, or in your data gathering, you might have chanced upon which sectors can we say as a people that should we win ourselves of these three major commodities, we are good to go on the international market with this particular product from these sectors?
So thank you, Gabriel. So yes, as we all know, we have three sectors of the economy: the primary sector, which is agriculture, and then we have industry, which is the secondary sector of the economy, and then the service sector, which is the tertiary of the economy. And if you read all the economic theories and everything, once you are on the path of development, then there's the need to begin to move away from primary sector into the secondary, and then eventually into the tertiary. So yes, in terms of the primary, as we all know, mainly is the extractives, is gold and then crude, and then agriculture, which is cocoa production also. But then, yes, within agriculture, can we look at other commodities in terms of fruits and vegetables, cereals like rice? Can we begin to come up with policies that can help us to be self-sufficient so we can free some forex and then use it for other developmental projects? So this is the expectation of Ghana Statistical Service, that policymakers come around the table, use the data, and then let's see what we can do for ourselves as a country.
I love Ghana Statistical Service. Yours is the data. We have churned out the data. Now the policymakers too, we have to make use of the data to bring about development.
Absolutely.
But then rice, I'm interested in the commodities, but the rice that we keep importing, Is it a matter of a consumer interest that we don't like because we've made noise about buy made in Ghana. It gets to a point we are not able to even produce to meet the standard market demands. So where are we?
Yeah, so with regards to some of these issues, when it comes to commodities, there are, in economics, we have taste and preferences. So people have their taste, people have their preferences. If we want to move away from the importation of rice, how well are we also ensuring that in terms of quality, taste, and everything, we are improving on our production such that we can substitute whatever we are importing and then consume made in Ghana product. And again, most of these things are also policy driven. There should be an intentional or calculated policy to help us create awareness and let people begin to have interest in what we are producing ourselves as a country.
So it's an election year, and I like the data that comes. I wish you were one of the presidential candidates, and I'll ask you that this is the data, this is the raw data going forward. What are you going to? You mentioned the extractives. Apart from gold, we have other resources that what you've chanced upon any of those extractive resources that we can fall on in Ghana, that we can say that this is ours, that we can take on the international market.
Yeah, so
apart from gold, which one comes in?
So in our GDP computation, we have gold, manganese, bauxite, diamonds. So these are the extractives that we have aside gold. But as to whether we have developed fully the potential so that we can export them in the quantities that can make us more visible with regards to some of these metals, it's something that we are yet to explore as a country. So it's not only gold, like I said, we have manganese, we have bauxite, we have diamonds, and some aluminium as well.
So let's look at comparing the same period, second quarter to second quarter 2022 or 2023. Have there been real growth?
So if you look at the real numbers, if you compare this quarter to the other, so in the second quarter of 2023, our total trade was 42.1 billion, and then in this quarter is 47.1 billion. So there have been some real growth. But as to whether
is that import or export?
No, so when you put both together, let me give you for exports. For exports, in the second quarter of 2023, we did a total of 20.2 billion. That is in real terms. And then in this quarter, we are doing 22.5. So we are seeing some 2.5 billion growth. In real terms. And then for import, we did 21.9, and then this time around, we are doing 24.6 in real terms. So yes, we have experienced some growth in real terms, but as to whether it's our full capacity is what we need to begin to have the conversation around.
The consecutive decline or dip in the cocoa, is it? Are we able to point that it's production or the price change? as a people, as a country?
Yes, for cocoa, in terms of volume, yes, it's a production issue. We are producing lesser than we used to produce in those previous years if you compare year on year.
What is contributing to that?
Yeah, so, well, that is where we would wish that the Ministry of Agri and all the relevant stakeholders would come up, because now then there is data that is showing, it's not hearsay anymore. There is data, so we need to, what are we doing well, or what are we not doing well? And for that matter, we are seeing this decline in terms of our cocoa production. We are one of the major producers of cocoa. Our competitors, are they also seeing this decline? Or they are seeing an increase? So this is where Ghana Statistical Service wish the conversation will begin, and then we can use data to resolve all these issues that we are having as a country.
The import area that we and let me say a place like machinery. Which machinery do we usually bring into there? Is it for construction? Is it in there?
Yeah, so it's so like I said, that is a broad category. We can go into the data and then be specific on which category of machinery are we importing, and that can be made available upon request for anybody who is interested in that.
Great, that will inform their decision making, you know. Yes. Okay, Dominic, it's been a very interesting conversation, and I'm sure viewers have been able to appreciate the realities behind the figures. Your final words.
Yeah, so Gabriel, thank you very much for having me, and we are grateful for this opportunity to break down the numbers for our listeners to also know that must we rejoice because we had a surplus, or we must begin to sit rather and then look at the numbers and then put in place the right measures to help us get to where we want to get to in terms of development.
So must we rejoice? We need to look at, we've made a surplus, but must we rejoice? What are some of the other areas that we can look at so far as our import and export earnings are concerned? And the Ghana Statistical Service has given us the data. Policy makers, it is up to us to collect, analyze it, and then use it to make sure that we spur on development as a people. You've joined the conversation this afternoon. So going forward, you know that these are foreign exchange earners. We mentioned the three: gold, cocoa, crude is what we are falling on. There are others that could be low-hanging fruits that we can also depend on. This is data. This is raw data. Are we doing well as a people? Let the conversation continue. Let's keep talking about it so that we have data that will inform decision making. It will inform research. It will support development. That is what we have sought to do on the state today, trying to unpack the realities behind the figures. And I'm glad you were able to join us for this conversation. We continue to talk. And we are back on Friday. The show is brought to us by Christian Service University, located in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. I have been your host, Gabriel 𝗟𝗓𝗓. We are back on Friday. Please take care of yourself and be good. Goodbye.